Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for inspired conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Mindset Elevation Coach and Intentional Living Guide, Linda Joy, and I am so excited to have you here for this soulful conversation. With me today is Joni Woods, a certified life coach and culture strategist with over 15 years of experience in communication, emotional intelligence, and relationship dynamics. She's the author of Burned, Blocked, and Better Than Ever. As the founder of Journey Coaching, she helps individuals, couples, and organizations build healthier, more connected relationships. Johnny, I'm so excited to have you here today, my friend.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I just the title of your book called you right in, right? Burned, blocked, and better than ever.
Mhm.
Before we talk about the book, though, let's go back a little bit because there was a pivotal moment in your life that really shifted everything for you. So, could you bring us back to that moment when your marriage ended and it set you on this transformational path?
Yeah, I decided to get married or get divorced in November of 2015, and it was a pivotal moment. My ex-husband and I were just arguing and fighting, and at this point, his family had been aware of his addiction problems. I had brought them into the light. We tried to do an intervention. Things just continued to spiral. And once again, we were fighting, and his parents show up in the middle of an argument, which is obviously completely humiliating to have your in-laws walking in. But, they were trying to talk to him about the situation, about his addiction and all of this stuff. And then more people joined the argument, and his best friend walked in, and the conversation completely changed. And it went from, hey, let's get you the help you need, to, well, why don't you guys just stay together for the kids? It's important for the kids. And I just sat there. I sat there at the edge of the couch watching this transformation of opinions from supportive to, hey, we need to get you the help that you need, to, well, we're just going to stay in this miserable marriage. And I, at that point, was like, I'm done. Like, I'm done. I shouldn't be convinced or talked into or told that I need to stay in a marriage that's so toxic and abusive just for the kids. What am I teaching the kids? Like, that's nothing that I want them to see. That's nothing I want them to experience in their own relationships. And me allowing it is something that I wasn't going to do. And being told that we should. So that was the pivotal moment. That's when my life changed.
I get you, girl, because I left a marriage about 32 years ago. I had two bonus children with him who was a little girl who was 4 and a boy that was 10. And I had my own daughter who was 6 at the time. And I can remember that same feeling one day of saying to myself, "Oh my goodness." And he was a good man, but he was passive aggressive, emotionally distant, not the kind of person that I could envision my life with, right? But I remember saying, "Oh my goodness, I'm teaching my daughters that this is a healthy way for a man to treat a woman.
Yeah.
And I'm teaching my son, my bonus son, that this is how men treat women." And I left 48 hours later. I wasn't strong enough to do it for myself, Johnny,
Mhm.
but it sounds like you, we found the strength because of our children.
Yes, for sure. Definitely did.
And so, you know, how did that whole experience lead you into coaching?
That took a little bit longer. After the divorce, it took a long time. He was very angry, aggressive person. So the divorce in and of itself took almost 10 months to finalize, and he fought me on every road, and nearly bankrupt me. I ended up working three different jobs, worked overnight at the hospital, and then I bartended and cleaned houses. So as I was doing all of that, I was trying to make a difference. And you would find me just constantly having long conversations with patrons, or I was known as the floor therapist. They would come talk to me about their relationships. So I always kept that skill together of helping people. And then in August of 2020, my ex-husband passed away, and I moved the kids from, we were in Illinois, and I moved them to Michigan to be closer to my family who lives in Canada. And when that happened, I got them all settled in, got them started in our new life, and I wanted them to see me do something. I wanted them to watch what it's like to make a dream, put goals around it, and then go for it, and the work that it takes to do that, and to have it be something that brings you life and joy and excitement. And so that's where I started. I was like, I don't want to be a therapist. I want to be someone that helps people move forward. I think therapy is amazing because it brings you back to baseline, and it did a lot of help with me. But I want to keep moving forward. I want to not get stuck in my trauma. And to do that, you need to have someone you can bounce stuff off of. You need a coach. And so that's why I chose coaching. And so I started that journey, and that brought me here.
I love that. And in your book called Burned, Blocked, and Better Than Ever, A Raw Journey of Healing, you know, it sounds like you wrote it for anyone who stayed too long or felt too broken, and for women who are afraid to begin again. And I think every woman listening right now has either been in or maybe is right now a relationship like that.
hmm
And some of the key points in your book are like, I love this, why there's no merit badge for suffering through relationships that are breaking you. Because I think there's certain generations, like my mom's generation, that it's like you suck it up and you stay.
Yep.
And so, of course, I was raised seeing that, and I'm the oldest child. Like, and I remember being like 16, 18 and looking at her like, what the hell are you doing here? Like, get the heck out. But
Yeah.
by then, it was a different generation. She didn't have that kind of inner strength to make the change. So, today you're coaching, are you specializing, it sounds like, in like individuals, couples, this kind of um, healing modality to help them see what's healthy and unhealthy in their relationships?
What I actually focus on is communication and relationships through emotional intelligence. So, a lot of everything that I went through, and even in the book, is just discovering my role in all of it. Becoming self-aware, becoming accountable, becoming responsible for who I want to be, like making the choice of who I want to be instead of being told, well, this is who you're supposed to be. And emotional intelligence, once you're able to start making it about yourself and how are you communicating? How are you, like, are you being passive aggressive? Are you being snippy? Do you have an angry streak that is shutting down communication, that's breaking down your relationships? Do you have a lack of ability to accept responsibility or be accountable for the things that you've done in the relationship? Like, when I have an issue with my kids, because I know that I can, fly off, I'm like, I need to put myself in a timeout, and for me, instead of flying off the handle and saying something that I will later regret, the accountable part, the self-reflective part of me says, I need a timeout. I need to go take a minute so that I can come back and we can have an honest conversation. Because I want my kids to be able to say stuff to me too, because I'm not a perfect parent. It's my first time ever being a parent, you know, I'm learning and I may not do it right all the time, and they're growing into adults. So I want them to learn how to communicate what they need, their feelings, and for me to be receptive to it. And so I take that and I teach that to, currently I'm teaching it to companies, because by the time I start talking to relationship people, they need therapy. I'm like, you need to go to therapy. But in companies and cultures and toxic, you know, company culture, if I can teach the skills in that setting, then hopefully those skills will, you know, flesh out to friends, families, because relationships are everywhere. It's relationships you have with your kids, your siblings, your parents, your best friends. We see best friends that have falling out. And it's all of that kind of communication. Like, how do we talk and see things from both sides, be accountable for how we're coming into the conversation or our behavior or all of that, and growing.
I love that. And I love that you're going into organizations too, because some organizations can really use it.
They really can.
Yes, and we're going to take our first break, Johnny, and we'll be back in a moment, my friends. You can learn more at johnnywoods.com, and that's spelled Joni woods.com. We'll be back in a moment.
Are you feeling called to clear your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual blockages? That's your soul and environment speaking to you and asking you to uncover all the clutter that is preventing you from living the life you envision. Felicia Messina DeHady, soul coaching master practitioner and trainer and teacher of advanced interior alignment and medicine wheel feng shui, supports her international clientele by creating inner and outer transformation in their environments and their lives by combining elements from her extensive training, experience, and intuition. Felicia is a master intuitive coach, certified by Colette Baron Reed, and has served as a master mentor for Denise Linn's Elemental Space Clearing certification course, as well as her Ultimate Clutter Clearing. Explore her offerings, including certification courses in Feng Shui, space clearing, soul coaching, and Reiki at FeliciaDeHady.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. With me today is Joni Woods, author of Burned, Blocked, and Better Than Ever. So something that you shared, especially with the kids, is that emotional intelligence and being able to communicate from from our higher self and not that lower wounded version of ourself that we all have.
Mhm.
How old are your children now?
My son is 19 and my daughter's 14.
So yeah, I think it's such a beautiful gift. Some of the things you shared with me is they watched you go through the hardest time of your life
Hmm.
and rise above it and make something even more beautiful out of the mess of life, right? So
Yeah.
to me, just them witnessing that was a powerful gift that you gave them. And now the communication and the emotional intelligence, what a blessing for them.
Thank you. I hope they think so.
They may not think so in this moment. My daughter's 41 now,
Mhm.
and I have going to be 14-year-old granddaughter. And then I also have a 25-year-old grandson from my bonus um, son. And one of the things I can say is watching as they matured into adults, hearing them say some of the things I used to say to them or do or teach. And I'm like, oh my God, they really were listening. So they may not be responding to you right now, but I'll tell you, they're taking it all in.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's such a blessing. So, in your work, in your relationship, your work with organizations, relationships, all that, because really it's relational coaching, right? Teaching
Yes.
people how to be more aligned in their communication. So, what are some of the most common toxic patterns that you see in relationships? And How can people break them?
Um, I think the big one that I've been seeing in both professional and personal is triangulation. Y- when you get other people on your side, it's this crowd mentality of, well, they've done me wrong, and so you start getting your team built up behind you, and it really actually negatively affects how they can take responsibility. And I'll see it in both the professional and personal thing. They'll be like, well, yeah, I just had to ask, my coworker, what did you think? How did you think I handled this? And I'm like, fair, but did you put them in a position where they could offer their honest opinion, or were you looking for validation in how you handled the situation in what you would consider the right way, quote unquote? Because that's the thing, we start to bring in people around us who we expect them to validate that we did everything right. And we're not open, even in our closest relationships, for them to look at us and say, I think you could have handled that a little differently. Actually, I would have handled it. I would have handled it differently. Anything like that, any kind of course correction, we're not seeing that definitely not in the professional scenarios, but in the relational scenarios, for sure, you get people that automatically will tell you, well, you need to just block them and you need to just cancel them and you need to just forget them and all that kind of stuff. And in some circumstances, I agree 100%. But I also think that so many people are blind to how they react and respond to situations that all it does is reinforce them to continue that behavior instead of going to someone and saying, hey, listen, what you did hurt my feelings. And giving them an opportunity to change is huge. And I had that in my own personal, like professional relationship. I do the coaching, but then I'm also a recruitment specialist at the Dixboro Project. And one of my chefs, he was just awful to me. And at the end of I waited till the end of the shift, and then I sent him a text message and I said, what you said to me really hurt. And immediately he apologized. He said, I'm sorry. He said, I know I tend to joke too much. But if I hadn't said anything, like everyone gathered around, they were so supportive. They're like, he's such a jerk. He needs to be fired. And I was like, fair. Thank you. I appreciate that. But that doesn't help me repair what's happening right now. And what it took was for me to be honest and with him and say, you hurt my feelings. And then he came down and he came to the office and he apologized sincerely. And then we talked about the problem, like the main problem that didn't have anything to do with us, but he was reacting in a fiery way and he was taking it out on me. I was the easy target. And because of that, because I was open and honest with him, I gave him the opportunity to level up and he did. And our relationship leveled up. And I think that people miss out on those moments where we get to build relationship. It's small. It involves being vulnerable. It involves speaking your truth and then letting them show up. Because I think a lot of people, you don't want to hear that someone took what you said and was hurt by it. You would feel awful about that. And so you want your point to be heard, but you also want to level up in the relationship. So that to me is where I see danger, is if you gather people around to reinforce or validate a feeling that you haven't fully worked through yet.
Yeah, because it could become a mob mentality,
Yes.
right? Energetically, like that person, that chef, was out of line.
Hmm.
And by you doing what you did to meet him, because it sounds like you met him with firmness, boundaries, and love, not
Yes.
attack. And that's the difference.
Hmm.
But all those other people circling around you, what happens is the energy starts getting poisonous.
Yep.
It's almost like, let's cancel this person, let's do this. And so I agree. I like to keep things as you do. In other words, I used to stew on things. I wonder why you said that. I can't believe you said that. And then it would make this whole scenario in my mind and poison my own energy.
No.
And so now I'll have the conversation like you did. One, because I want the energy to move through me.
Hmm.
And because two, that conversation won't be happening a second time. Like you gave that person a chance to rise up, and he did. Now
Yeah.
I'm curious, what happens if you had that same conversation and he didn't rise up? Because most would get defensive. What happens then? Like, how would you handle that? Because I hear from a lot of my clients, I had that difficult conversation, they got so defensive and it spiraled. Can you
Mhm.
speak to that?
Yeah, so that particular chef, him and I have been friends for a while. So for me to be able to have that conversation with him was a little bit easier for him to level up. The other chef that was there that day, we've only been working together for about 9 months. And I ended up looking at him and I just said with firmness, I said, you were very mean to me on Sunday, and I would like to have a better day today. And he just kind of looked at me, and I said it in love. I was not disrespectful, but I set that boundary. And he never really apologized, and I didn't need him to. I was just setting the boundary because I'm the manager. So you have to treat me with some level of respect. Even if you're having a bad day, I'm here for you. I'm part of your team, but you don't get to be mean to me. And so I was definitely more firm. But he changed. He changed his attitude. He has not been like that since. He definitely has been more intentional in building a relationship with me. And I think it is in our approach. One, I know who I am. I know my worth, and I know that I don't deserve to be talked to like that. So if I can say it in a way where I'm not diminishing their worth, but I'm recognizing that I get to be treated better, it landed really well. So I don't know if that's a good answer because
It's a
everything.
perfect answer. No, it's a perfect answer. And it made me think, as I shared, my daughter's 41, and I had a tumultuous childhood and wanted to raise her differently. And I remember like 10 or 11, we were having a conversation, and the tone of, and she was the most easiest child. She was an amazing kid. That's why I stopped at 1. I was like, uh-oh. And and I remember it was that little normal little sass, that comes up when they hit a certain age. And I remember just looking at her. I said, "Would you like to try saying that again?"
Yep.
That's it. I wasn't angry. I wasn't anything. And that was our language of our house rule is you can say anything to me,
Hmm.
but you'll always watch how you say it. Like if
Yeah.
you're angry, you can be angry, of course. If you're sad, all that. But there is always that message of respect and validation both ways.
Mhm.
And to watch her now with the granddaughter, the bond they have because she now lives that same message with her, right?
Mhm.
And to me, isn't that what it's all about? It's like,
Yes.
listen, if we're emotionally mature adults, we can have hard conversations without demeaning the other person um, or accepting less than we deserve.
Hmm. Yep.
So I
I
think
agree.
that's key too. So we're going to take our next break and we will be back in a moment. When we come back, we're going to be talking about cultural and family expectations, how they affect the way we communicate and how we love. So
Mhm.
stay with us. I'm with Joni Woods, author of Burned, Blocked, and Better Than Ever. You can learn more at joniwoods.com, and that is JONI woods.com. As always, all the links and bio and information is in the show notes. We'll be right back.
Your worth is not determined by the number on the scale. You are enough right now, exactly as you are. If you're like many midlife women, you've thought, if I could just reach my ideal weight, I'd be so much happier. But the truth is, what we're really craving is our own love and acceptance. And Sarah Haas is that guide for your journey. Sarah is a women's weight release expert and body love coach and walks alongside midlife women ready to say yes to self-care, self-compassion, and body love so they can become the healthy, vibrant, and unapologetically confident women they're here to be. Her holistic approach integrates nutrition, body movement, and self-care to nurture body, mind, and spirit. Visit sarahhaaswellness.com for supportive resources, programs, and more for midlife women ready to elevate their health.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm with Joni Woods of JoniWoods.com, author of Burned, Blocked, and Better Than Ever. So I'm curious because how do cultural and family expectations affect the way we communicate and love? I mean, I can see some threads throughout my family, so I'm curious of your thoughts.
Yeah, so that is kind of the big chunk of my book to start, and why it's more self-care because, or self-help. I grew up in a Pentecostal church in Canada, very deeply religious. My parents were at church all the time. And I was just constantly told over and over and over again, this is who you needed to receive any kind of unconditional love. And if you hit that expectation, you would get all this love that I never really got because my parents had a very violent relationship. And then when my mom left, I stayed with my father, and he used religion as a weapon. And you either hit the mark or you didn't. And if you didn't, there was punishments. And if you did, you still never really fully felt loved. And so being taught that through my entire life was, okay, you needed to be a good Christian girl. This is how you be a good Christian girl. This is how, when I moved in with my mom, she went back to the faith, and then all of a sudden it was all about religion again. This is these expectations of being a good Christian teenager. This is the stuff that you do for the church, all of this. It was constant expectation, expectation. And then I went into pastoral school, and the same thing, if you wanted to find a good husband, this is how you needed to behave. These were the shirts. I mean, they had like a dress code, to very strict dress code for girls, for the women. And it was just like the guys never got anything. It was constant double standard. If we wanted a good husband, we needed to be a good wife. If we wanted, all of these kind of things. And it really struck me. We went on a missions trip to Haiti, and we had to hike like 7 or 8 hours up a mountain. It was exhausting. And it was a co-ed trip. And we get to the top, and we're up there. There's very little water, and one of my male coworkers started to feel ill. And I just, trying to be a decent human being, start getting him water, start getting him food. I start trying to like sit and take care of him. And I got in trouble for it. And they told me, they're like, you can't do that because he might start lusting after you. And I was like, "Well,
What?
this is ridiculous. Like, why? I should be able to be a decent human being. And you are telling me I'm failing in my expectation of being a godly woman because I'm helping someone because he might sin." Like, it was just like
Which is a
the
contradiction to love.
exactly. Exactly. And it was just, so for me, putting all that stuff aside, because when I got a divorce, the church obviously was like, hey, you can't be a pastor anymore because you're divorced. And it was just like, fine, you know what? Then I'm going to be someone who is full of love and kindness. And that's going to be my goal in life. And if I don't meet your expectation because I'm not godly enough, or I'm not good enough, or I've made this mistake in my past, or I've done this, or I've made this choice because I prefer to be known for love and kindness than your spiritual expectation of me, like that kind of stuff, then fine. But because of that, I will love myself better. And when I love myself better, then I'm able to love others better. Because I just was constantly told, especially in my marriage, that I wasn't measuring up. I wasn't a good enough pastor's wife. I wasn't a good enough wife. I wasn't a good enough homemaker. I was a great mother. He told me that all the time, but I failing in every other area. And because I had been told my entire life that I had these expectations I needed to hit, I never felt truly loved. And but because I walked out of that marriage, and because I chose to love myself more, I am happy. I'm so happy with who I am. I'm very happy, and feel love. I just honestly, genuinely feel love.
What a story. And what a journey you know? It's almost like there was this soul wisdom within you, even on that hike that day, that says, I am not going to be told to be less than when I'm just here to love and support and serve.
Yeah.
And it was, so there was always this little fire in you that knew your truth, it sounds.
Yeah, and I got in trouble for that a lot.
Yeah, believe me, I get you, girl. But you know what? Isn't that, I've always said I'd rather be loved for who I truly am,
Hmm.
right? I'm sorry, I'd rather be hated for who I truly am than loved for who I'm not,
Yeah.
right? Like so many of us walk around with this persona for love, acceptance, and validation, but inside we're dying because we're not being true to who we are.
Yeah.
And I just say those that are meant for me, whether that's clients, relation, it doesn't matter what it is. I'm going to show up as love, as authentic, being authentic. I want the highest version of me to come through. And that's what your journey sounds like to me, that you wanted to lead from that place that of love.
Yep.
It wasn't always accepted.
Nope.
And
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 it's still, yeah, it's still hard for people to even understand it now. Like it's, yeah, it's always interesting.
it is, because I was just on a group call with a bunch of the speakers, exhibitors, and sponsors of a upcoming women's event, and we were talking, and they're like, someone said something because she had been following me for almost 20 years on social media, and she said, I can feel your heart, Linda. She goes, you've always been about love and service, and now that I'm in your circle, I can feel it. To me, that was the best compliment someone could give me, other than, hey, you're so successful. Hey, you're cute, right? Anything like that. I'm like, oh, she can feel my love. Like,
Yeah.
isn't that what we all want?
I think so. That is definite. I mean, I know that that's what it is for me. I think a lot of people, though, they struggle to even know what it is that they want to be known
Oh,
for.
I agree. I agree. And honestly, I've been there. I'm 63 now, but I probably the first 30 years of my life, maybe 35, I really didn't know who I was. It always reminds me of that movie with Richard Gere and Julia Roberts. I think it was called Runaway Bride, when she
Yeah.
said she didn't know what kind of eggs she liked because she always ate the ones that of her partner. I
Hmm.
cried when it said that. I'm like, that's me. Because I've always morphed myself into who I thought that person wanted me to be. That by the time I was 30s, I just woke up one day like, what do I like? What excites me? I had to almost re-meet myself.
Yep.
And I've been on that journey for since 1991 is when I had my spiritual awakening. But there's like an excavation of all the stories, the shoulds, the have tos that we pick up in life. Do you notice that in the work that you're doing in the world, that people have these personas they think they have to live under, so they hide their true self?
Yes. And unfortunately, so that's where we start to see the damage in cultures because there's some statistic out there that says, you don't really know someone you're dating until after like month 6 or 9 or something like that, where their true colors really start to show. And the same thing happens in the business practice. They come in wanting to be what they think you want them to be. And it's like, no, we want you to be you so that we can put you in the right spot that helps you grow and helps the company grow. And I do a lot of speaking, and I spoke at a Disrupt HR event, and my title was "Go Ahead and Drink on the Job," and it was meant to talk about when people or one or two drinks in, their true colors, their authentic self really start to show up. And that's the person that we want doing sales or leadership, assuming it's good. Sometimes there's a dark streak and you're like, you need therapy. But for the most part, everyone's suddenly so confident and everyone is suddenly so engaging. And it's like, yeah, that's because we've stripped off those expectations. And, as a company, why don't we invite our team to come in and be that way from the get-go? And then we get to mold and make them and build their leadership skills or build their sales skills. But if we don't see their authentic self when they come in, or if they're not willing to or able to show off that authentic self, it takes so much longer to build a cohesive and good team.
Is that where most of your work is with organizations, or are you, do you do private one-on-one also, just so our listeners know?
Yeah, no, I do private one-on-one. I actually, one of my favorite ones out of 2024, was I worked with a family. It was sisters. It was like five sisters, and they were trying to navigate the care for their elderly mother. And it was all hotheads and, Italian family and all of the stuff that they brought in the years. And I mean, we worked together for 9 months, and it it's funny because, everyone's like, "Oh, well, you're going to fix my relationship." I'm like, I'm probably not. But what I am going to do is teach you how to better communicate what it is that you're looking for and better understand your partner, your sisters, and it got to the point where, yeah, her frustration, the one that brought me in, her frustration was that she wanted to see more engagement in her siblings. And we were able to get down to, well, here's who's going to be engaged and how they're going to be engaged. And we had to change her expectations of them and really align with what it was that they were able and willing to do. And because of that, there was more freedom in talking about managing the healthcare of their mother and talking about the roles and responsibilities, with less emotional frustrations behind it because we had set the boundary. Like, let's start first with what's your expectation, and then let's find out what their availability is to meet that expectation. And I loved that. I mean, it was 9 months and it was great conversations, hard conversations, tense conversations, but it, they walked out of it with a more cohesive plan. I didn't fix their internal sibling relationship. That wasn't my goal. My goal was to help come up with a plan for their mother. But it was I would consider a successful coaching.
That was a powerful story, and we're going to take off. I think it's going to be a final break now that I can't believe this time is flying, my friends. We're going to be back in a moment, my friends, and we're going to be talking about how to recognize when maybe you're staying in a relationship out of fear rather than true connection, and so much more. We'll be back in a moment, my friends.
The time is now to deepen your intuition, connect with the archangels, your guides, and own your sacredness so you can live the empowered, inspired life you desire. Intuitive spiritual teacher, healer, and holistic life coach Robin Fitzsimons consciously blends her treasure trove of healing modalities, including Akashic Records, Sui Reiki, and silent counseling, along with working with the angelics to support the divine wellness of her clients' body, mind, and spirit. Through her popular online classes and sacred readings, including shadow work, awakening your intuition, channeled angelic guidance, past life healing, soul recovery, and more, Robin brings women deeper into the truth of who they are in a safe and sacred container. She is the founder of Wellness with Robin in Platteville, Wisconsin, where she offers in-person sessions and classes. Learn more at wellnesswithrobin.com.
You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm with Joni Woods. You can learn more at jonywoods.com. The URL and bio are all below in the show notes. She's the author of Burned, Blocked, and Better Than Ever. So let's say one of our listeners is in a relationship. What's a way they can learn to recognize if they're in that relationship for the wrong reasons?
Um, I think learning if you're in the relationship for the wrong reasons is, what do you say when you tell your story? I have a lot of people, I didn't know how miserable marriages were out there until I got divorced because nobody talks about how miserable their relationship is. You only ever highlight the good stuff. And I really came to it when I was like, man, when I tell people what's going on in my relationship, it really freaks them out because, when you're actually having to say, oh yeah, this happened, or oh yeah, this happened. And if someone's looking at you and they can see it because they're the outside perspective, and they recognize that that's not healthy, that's not okay. That's the validation that you need. So think about your story. If you were to talk about your relationship today, how it looked, what happened in it, were you wanting to go home? There were times that I just didn't want to drive home. There were times that, I would see a deep ravine and be like, oh, if I naturally fell into there, it'd be okay. Those are kind of warning signs. Not that I was suicidal, but it was just like, that I just didn't want to go home. And so saying those things out loud, not even if you're not saying it to anyone else, but you're journaling it or you're thinking it in the car or you're just like, man, I don't want to go home. That right there is a sign. Those are the things that you should start looking for and listening to.
That's a good one. I think we can all talk, experience that.
Hmm.
So I'm curious, after that tumultuous divorce, which was not easy as you shared, what did you learn about dating after divorce that could help others avoid repeating their past mistakes? Because I know in my younger years, I just went right to the next one and it was same old, just in a different costume. And I
Yeah.
realized that I was the common denominator.
Hmm. That is actually the second part of my book is the whole dating experience. And so the first part is recognizing the patterns. The second part is learning how to break those. And one of the things that I have recognized in all of my, quote unquote therapies at the hospital or, one on but the bar conversations or anything like that, is you always get stuck in your rebound. The rebound love is just so important for you to gain self-awareness of what it is that you're looking for in your relationship. For me, my rebound, we met and within 3 weeks, 6 weeks, we were already planning our future together. Like it was just this
Yeah,
whole
that,
whirlwind firecracker, this was the best thing ever. And then when it completely died out the way all rebounds do, it took time for me to go, okay, what was it about this particular relationship that made me go so unhinged? And unhinged in the sense that I was willing to like completely change my life for this man that I had just met, and it was because he gave I was a starved puppy. I had no I'm a words of affirmation person. I'm a physical touch person. I need those things and I didn't get any of that. In fact, I got all the opposite. I was, verbally abused. I was always the problem. So when I met this man, he filled that bucket so quick and so fast and I thought for sure he's my soulmate. No, he just found the right buttons. And it wasn't that he was being vicious or anything like that. That was just the way he communicated, and it really resonated with me. And so to recognize that what I need out of relationships has to be a balance, like I want a man to hold me accountable in a gentle way, but I want him to be encouraging, so it was taking all of those things that made me believe this big giant firework was true love, to go, okay, what was it that I was needing? I was a starved puppy, and he immediately made me feel loved. And so going back, as I started to date after my rebound, it was easier because then I was able to look at all these men who are like, you're just so beautiful. You're the best person ever. Why are you single? I didn't need that validation because I already knew that. I knew I was great. I knew I was beautiful. What I need is someone that's going to not mansplain things to me or, not tear me down or, like really be a partner. And because of that, I was able to slowly, through the dating process, just kind of weed out the guys that I was like, no, I don't think that's real, legitimate, honest conversation between us. And it worked really good. I'm proud of my dating relationships and my stories and the friendships, and I managed to, because I did it in that way, still maintain friendships with former relationship ex-boyfriends, and they're great. They're in my book.
I love that because I was always able to stay connected and close to. I've only had 4 long-term relationships before my honey here, who I've been with 31 years. And a lot of people go, "How can you still be friends?" And I go, because I think we heal that young woman drama,
Yeah.
like um and my even my honey now has become friends with them. And I think that's a sign of healing, right?
Yeah.
When you can meet someone where they are and not from the story that you once lived with them, because if we can change, other people can change.
Yep.
And that's how I've come to see it. So we still have a few minutes left. So what is another if there's a woman struggling right now in her communication with a relationship, because one of the things I hear most from my private coaching clients is, I don't feel heard.
Hmm.
And so even though they try to share their truth and share their feelings, it's almost like in some cases it just bounces right off that person. Is there a tip or strategy that you would recommend to help like break down that wall?
Yes. So it's one of the therapy tools, just ask more questions. So if you're trying to get a point across and it's not landing, then I start to ask, what are you hearing me say? Can we talk about that? And if they're hearing something that is completely off the wall, I don't get defensive about it. I'm like, okay, so this is your lens, and because we all see the world through how we were raised, our traumas, we all hear responses through how people have argued with us. Like my ex-husband used to like berate and badger me. Like he just, if he comes in hot and you're blah 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 blah, I shut down. So if I know that I'm trying to speak to someone and they are shutting down, then I recognize right away, this isn't about me, this is about you. And so I start to ask questions. In that, it's like, okay, what are you feeling right now? Is what I'm saying bringing out an insecurity in you? And even if you can't talk about it with them at that moment, if you're thinking about it, it helps you kind of navigate how to say something to someone else. Because I met, even with a girlfriend, I had accidentally tagged her in a picture that wasn't her, and she got super offended about it. And I just was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Clearly, this was an accident. And I had to recognize that for her, that was an insecurity, that she was mistaken for someone else. And so I sat down and I had a conversation and I said, I really apologize. I obviously would not try to do that to you. How can I make this better? And I knew it wasn't me. I knew it was an accident and it was a mistake. But how she perceived it, how she reacted to it, told me that, okay, there's something going on with you, and how can I help you? And so I think just even if you can't say it in the moment, just keeping that in mind that, okay, the fact that you're not hearing me is saying something about you, not about me. Maybe they feel insecure, maybe they feel jealous. I have a male friend who gets very jealous every time I talk about other males in my life, and I'm like, okay, we need to work on this. And so yeah, I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, that is major. And one of the other things too is you said you're doing a lot of speaking.
Yeah.
So if someone's interested in having you speak, you do virtual speaking as well as in person and organizational speaking, correct?
Yes.
And I want to invite everyone to visit JoniWoods.com. And again, that's JONI Woods.com. Grab a copy of her book,
Mhm.
Burned, Blocked, and Better Than Ever, while you're there. Also, learn more about her transformational coaching services. Joni, I've really loved this soulful conversation. Your journey is truly inspiring, and I love how, as a saying I love to say is, I love meeting women who turn their mess into their message. That I'm raising my hand there.
Yeah. Thank you.
So
So,
you're welcome. Thank you for joining me, my friend.
thanks.
And until next time, my friends, choose love, choose joy, choose happiness. Blessings.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.